Murder, the most heinous crime recognized within law, an action which brings darkness, finality, an end. Arguably, there is no worse punishment than death, so it follows that individuals who commit such crimes are punished and constrained as well. This would be the most logical course of action. Of course, in an ideal world, every killer would be penalized. However, history has proven that this is not the case. According to the FBI Uniform Crime Reporting data of 2019, men were arrested for 88% of homicides, whilst women were only arrested for 12%. When considering what I wanted to talk about today, it was this great disparity in numbers that led me to consider the question, how do women get away with murder? My first search on Google, when developing my speech, was famous serial killers, and I was led to Britannica's website, 7 of history's most notorious serial killers. On this list, I found 7 men, including Jack the Ripper, Jeffrey Dahmer, and Ted Bundy. These men are generally household names, parables told to children as a warning of the dangers in the world, and their stories have been ongoing for a long time, with the crimes having been committed throughout various historical periods. Jack the Ripper and H.H. Holmes were killing in the 1800s. In order to better understand this specific aspect of criminology, and have an excuse to watch a horror movie outside of Halloween, I decided that I would watch Scream, one of the most famous horror movie franchises of all time. Having already watched all the films, I decided that I'd look at the 2015 TV show spin-off instead. At the season 1 finale, the killer was revealed. And spoiler, it was a woman, Piper Shaw. During the reveal, I felt a sort of relief, and maybe I'm just arrogant, but in my mind, I'd nearly convinced myself that if I were in the protagonist's situation, I could take on the killer. This is not my normal response to one of these shows, and I started to consider the implications of being a woman in the field of crime. I realized it's one of the few activities where women are seen to have a clear advantage, being overlooked. For centuries, the politics of countries has led to women being viewed as subordinate, and this collective norm has led and enabled women to commit crimes. It was this view that gave women power. They were able to remain undetected for extensive periods of time. This gave them longer time to continue their felonies, making women some of history's most nefarious killers. 2 prominent examples of such criminals are Julia Tofana and Elizabeth Bathory, 17th century female serial killers. In the 1600s, women were subject to their fathers from birth and later given to their husbands to be their property. The point of marriage was to join 2 families together for successful political or monetary advantages, with fathers competing to provide the best dowries possible for their daughter. As union between partners was simply an agreement, a consensus between families was written on documents years in advance, until the bride reached puberty and was officially of marital age. So, unsurprisingly, many women ended up in miserable marriages with no way out except widowhood, as divorce would lead to excommunication in the Catholic Church, the established religion of the Western world at the time. These marriages commonly turned into women suffering untold abuse. Such social injustice was inescapable for millions across the globe, and this led to the creation of deadly female communities, including the society formed around Julia Tofana. Julia moved to Rome from Palermo in 1633, following her mother, Aqua Tofana's execution for murdering her own husband. Julia decided to continue this black market trade and aimed to help women in abusive marriages through the only way possible, becoming a widow. Julia decided to launch an underground ring of criminals from her apothecary shop. For those who did not know her, she sold cosmetics to enhance women's beauty. This disguised the true nature of her business, selling poison to vulnerable women in need. Her best-selling product was Aqua Tofana, a coveted face cream that included lead, arsenic, and belladonna. Julia confessed to having killed over 600 men between 1633 and 1651, and she was able to get away with it due to being overlooked as a threat by men in society and through her intelligence in administering the poison. The first dose would often cause physical exhaustion or weakness. The second, stomach aches, vomiting, and dysentery. It was the third dose that often killed the victims. This slow process made the poison undetectable and the murderers free from suspicion. Let's take another example from the same time period. Elizabeth Bathory, a 17th century Hungarian noblewoman who was accused of killing around 600 young girls. This stemmed from her belief that bathing in their virgin blood would grant her eternal youth. Bathrow adopted several various forms of extensive torture methods, allegedly taught to her by her husband, Count Verenic Nadasdy. These included covering her victims in honey and leaving them outside for insects to devour, forcing her victims into deadly cold ice baths, and even whipping them with stinging nettles. These two women, with vastly different motives and victims, shared one thing: context. To understand how they were able to get away with such a vast number of heinous crimes, we need to look at the society that they were living in. The literature, philosophy, religion, and science of the time all led to a generalized acceptance of women's inferiority. Aristotle, one of the greatest intellectual figures of the West, described women as imperfect men. The Bible instructed women to submit to their husbands. The 17th century anti-feminist view also had a prominent medicinal foundation, with doctors following Hippocrates' theory of the four humours. This theorized that the human body was made up of four fluids: black bile, yellow bile, phlegm, and blood. Hippocrates developed this idea within the theme of gender identity, claiming that women were wetter and colder than men who were hotter and drier. This apparently made women more prone to emotional instability and physical weakness. It was these views that justified the ideas that women were more suited to domestic roles and less capable of rational thought, giving them subordinate positions within society. The prompt for the TEDx talks today were "What's the story?" And the stories of these women in crime demonstrate that no act can be judged without first understanding the political context. These women were able to kill, as the 17th century beliefs were strongly patriarchal, leading to a dismissal over their potential danger to be criminals and aiding the murderers in being disregarded as incapable. It was their society's strong patriarchal nature and roots in anti-feminism that explain their actions. When looking at examples of oppression or conflict, the main ideologies are essential in processing what is actually happening and the motivation behind such activities. So how do women get away with murder? The environment that they live in. Today, with the remnants of ideologies established hundreds of years ago still partially ingrained in society, women are less likely to be viewed as dangerous. But with society consciously aware of such prejudices, there's been an effort to move away from these ideas. This has led to the arrests of women such as Gypsy Rose Blanchard, Lucy Letby, and Joanna Dennehy, making society a safer and fairer place. Thank you.